Guys, there's one specific Dynasty Fantasy Football strategy that a lot of the sharps, a lot of the sharks, a lot of the dudes who consistently win just really don't tell you. You kind of have to stumble upon it. You kind of have to see them do it in action. And then you get the secret sauce, man. You get the secret knowledge about how to really win a Dynasty Fantasy Football league. And it's very untypical. It's very different than your redraft or your seasonal leagues, right? It's all about future value, speculation, seasonality, right? So, like, some players will have value that rises or falls even when games aren't even being played, right? In the offseason. It's very different. Because of that, you have to think about dynasty fantasy like an economist, right? You have to think about value. It's all about value and exchanging value. In this video, I'm going to share with you guys my complete Dynasty Fantasy Football strategy. This is the one that I'm going to be employing in all of my Dynasty leagues. And I really hope that my fucking noob, fat league mates don't watch this video, because if they do, they're going to know what I'm up to, dude. They're going to be, keen to the fucking plays that I'm trying to make in my league. So first, we need to discuss the basics, man. Before I tell you the strategy, we need to talk about the basics, bro, because then it'll all make sense. So if you're a fucking like Dragon Lord ranked Dynasty player, you can skip to the strat. But for everyone else, dude, bust out your lead pencils, dude, your notepad. Let's get into it, dude. And we're going to start with the first basic rule, and it's that every player and draft pick has varying value to different people. So, for example, man, a draft pick to a contender isn't worth much, right? He's a contender. He wants to win now. He might be thinking about the long term and wanting to accrue some value if he has aging players, but for the most part, it's just not going to mean as much to him. It's not going to be that valuable to him. And a running back to a team without running backs, obviously worth more to a team that's loaded on running backs. So keeping that in mind, that's the first basic you need to understand about Dynasty, that no player has the same value to everyone. You can look at every keep, trade, cut chart. You can look at every fucking fantasy calc trade database, but at the end of the day, it's based on the subject, right? The person you're making trades with. So that's the first basic rule about Dynasty. The second is that rebuilds should only take like 2 to 3 years. 3 years at the most, dude, at the higher end. So you need to be cold-blooded, man. You need to know that if you're going to rebuild a team, you need to have like a 2-year time horizon. And what that means is that you need to be cold-blooded with giving up players that you love. Now, I fucking love Alvin Kamara, dude. He's one of my favorite players that has ever been in the NFL. I was drafting him every year in redraft. I had him in Dynasty. You have to cut bait, dude. If you're not a contender this year or even next year, you have to realize that Alvin Kamara is going to lose value in the next 2 years. And if he's not going to help you in 2 years when you're planning, when your plan of attack is set in place and you want to compete in 2 years or in 3 years, you need to sell him now while he still has value. I know it sucks. I know you might be like cutting bait a little bit early, but you need to not fall in love with the players that you have, and you need to think about 3 years from now. Like, who are the guys that you think are going to pop off then, right? So you're just going to have to bite the bullet there. That is the second basic. The third basic rule is that age matters, definitely, but windows matter more. Now, younger players are more valuable in terms of trade value, obviously, right? They're ascending. They can not only can they produce for you now, their value is likely to increase by next season. So that is like a perfect asset to purchase, right? In any type of economic, any type of economic environment. You want to purchase values that'll rise in value and will yield dividends now. So that's the way young players are, right? But if you're trying to win now, it might be that the 29-year-old player, the Terry McLaurin, the Devontae Adams, right, who, that they're liable to getting 15 fantasy points per game, although their value might plummet next season, they're going to be much more useful to a contending team than like a 21-year-old prospect, right? Because we just don't know if that 21-year-old is going to be viable now when you need it, when you're contending, right? So you need to build your team. You need to view players based on your competitive window, based on, where you're at, if you're a contender, if you're a rebuilder, as I mentioned earlier. So that's the third basic rule. The fourth is that you need to be liquid, man. You need to be malleable, right? Being amoeba, dude. So don't hoard value. Don't be like, I'm gonna accrue fucking 8 running backs even though I have no chance of competing, because half, if not more than half of those running backs are not going to have any value by the time you're in place to compete. Now, you can always parlay those players for older players to compete. So hoarding value could be good in that sense, but you need to capitalize when their value's at their highest. And it's really a risk, right? You just never know when when their value's gonna be at their highest versus their lowest. So it is kind of a crapshoot, but those are the 4 basic rules, the 4 basic food groups, whatever the fuck you want to call them about Dynasty Fantasy Football. But one specifically that I really want to hone in on is the third one. It's the one that I said age matters, but windows matter more. So this is kind of the most important rule in Dynasty, in my opinion, because It allows you to view players either advantageously or disadvantageously based on the state of your team or your goals. Holy fuck, that's a mouthful. But let me put that in layman's terms, right? So Devontae Adams to you might be hyper valuable if you're contending this year, while to a rebuilder he might not be. And you need to basically pounce on that value, right? You need to basically assess your league and look at the players who, all right, this dude's clearly in a rebuild. I'm a contender. These three guys are going to be my trade partners, right? These are the three guys that I'm going to be trying to poach older contending type assets now. So basically, as I mentioned, yeah, how you build your team and what players you get should be based on whether you're a contender or a rebuilder. I'm just repeating myself at that point. And here's the strategy, dude. We're now at the point in the video. This is the title of the video. Before I give you guys the point, if you like this video, if you're new here, hit me up with a like and a subscribe. It'd be the best way to show support. I do have Dynasty rankings, all that kind of stuff in my Patreon. You can head over. You get access to a Discord, which is free, and then you can send me your trades or send me Q&As and any of that type of stuff. The Discord's fucking barren at the moment. It's just me and literally no one else. I just launched it this week. So I'd love to have you guys join it. Fucking, introduce yourself. That would be sick if you just gave a little quick intro or a long intro. Just to know kind of, the makeup of the community. So now back to the video. Sorry for that interruption, but, I got to do it. Punt running back, dude. Punt running back is the dynasty strategy. Now, maybe you might have guessed where I was headed or where I was leading with kind of the basic rules and kind of the thesis of this video. But the running back position is a position you need to be punting if you're not a direct contender this year. Until I have a serious contending team, I'm essentially going to be selling running backs, trying to parlay running backs with picks to try to move up and get those top 10, top 12 wide receivers, right? The Malik Neighbors, the CeeDee Lambs, the fucking, obviously Jamar Chase, right? If you can get them, the Justin Jeffersons. You need to load your team with those types of players, right? Like the absolute stud players, and then you address the running back position. Now, sounds counterintuitive, dude. You guys might be, Ron, you're a fucking madman. Running back's the most important position in fantasy football.
Fucking idiot.
That's how that's how most people view it, right? They view running backs as the new hotness, the new exciting pieces, right? Trevion Henderson, holy shit, dude. Ashton Genty, holy shit, so exciting. Dude's going to be an absolute workhorse. Ashton Genty is useless to a team that doesn't have good wide receivers, is maybe lacking a top 5 quarterback, doesn't really have a tight end solidified. You have no business taking a guy like Ashton Genty. His value is at his absolute highest that it'll ever be. I mean, it could actually go higher, right? You can actually draft him, wait a year, and see what happens. But you're playing with fire a little on this Raiders team, right? So, what is a serious contender? What is the makeup of a serious contending team? How do you know if you're a contender? How do you know if you're a rebuilder? Now, here's my strategy, right? This is just me, dude. You can take this info, you can trust it. It's up to you. I like to view it this way, man, and you can kind of feel it, right? We're going to use a super flex league as an example. Do I have 2 to 3 top 24 wide receivers? Do I have a Neighbors and a Nico, or a Neighbors and a Jamar Chase, or a Justin Jefferson and a fucking, Jackson Smith and Jigba? So do I have 2 or 3 of these clearly top 24 ADP wide receivers where you have a stud little stable of wide receivers? That's first point. Second point, do I have a top 6 quarterback, man? Do I have a dude who's a Jalen Hurts, a fucking Joe Burrow, even if you're in a 6-point passing touchdown league? Do I have a consistent good second option like a Baker Mayfield? Remember, this is super flex. And then do I have a third guy who's still a starter, but I can just keep him on my bench just in case somebody gets injured. I have a viable dude I can throw in, right? Like a fucking Drake May, or I don't know how this could happen. It happened in one of my leagues where I have Jordan Love as my third option, Caleb Williams as my third option in another league. So do you have 3 bona fide dudes where one of them is a stud, right? A Josh Allen with 2 really good backup options, right? So that's the second point. Third point, if you're in a tight end league, especially tight end premium, do you have a difference maker tight end, right? Do you have a George Kittle who you can really get for cheap, to be honest? Because he's if the rebuilding team has George Kittle, you can get him for pretty cheap if you're a contender. So fourth thing, not as important, but still I think very useful, especially in fantasy football with injuries, is that do I have young handcuff running backs where they're one thing happening away from being the starter, right? Think about like your Ray Davis. Think about even like a Trevion Henderson, right? Like he's kind of a handcuff, but he also has standalone value. So do you have these high value handcuffs on high value teams? Essentially, that's how I view it. If you meet those standards, I'm pretty confident that, okay, I think I can contend. It's time to go running back shopping. So I've punted running back. I've essentially sold any of the value running backs for these, like, draft picks, younger players. I've then parlayed them into moving up and getting these, Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson type stud wide receivers, Nico Collins. You need to go out and you need to get dudes like Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Alvin Kamara, James Conner, Aaron Jones. So those names that I just listed, in 2024, I'm going to put up a chart somewhere behind me. In 2024, I have this list of league winning, so championship winning players, and the percentages of how many of the championship winning teams had these players, right? So we see, at the top of the list is your standard dudes. It's your Jahmyr Gibbs, Jamar Chase, Bucky Irving, Bijan, Amon-Ra. These are like your young studs, right? Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors. That's understandable. They own the highest percent share. Jahmyr Gibbs is kind of insane at 29%, right? That means 1/3 of all teams that won championships had Jahmyr Gibbs on them. Just an insane player to have in fantasy football. I actually beat one of my buddies. Maybe he's watching this video, Cody. He had Jahmyr Gibbs. I just had JD5, Jaden Daniels, and Malik Neighbors. Like, I just had slightly better players than him, I guess. So, but back to the video. So these old players that I just mentioned, on this list, you see a couple of dudes. I highlighted them here. Derrick Henry at 11, Jacobs at 22, Saquon at 24, 40, Aaron Jones at 44, and Alvin Kamara at 45. So these are older, stud, volume-based running backs who appeared on a lot of championship-winning teams, right? So if you employed this strategy of getting older running backs when you're ready to compete, you have a high chance of winning a championship. Maybe you want to put Jonathan Taylor in that list as well. Maybe you also want to put like some of the older wide receivers as well. So this can also be employed for older wide receivers. You see Devontae Adams on this list. You see Mike Evans on this list, right? Yeah, you essentially want to employ that. Once you know you're ready to contend, you go out and you get those volume-based older running backs. And you just hope, because you can get them for cheap, right? You can usually trade like a first-round pick, and you can usually get them straight up for a first-round pick, sometimes even a second-round pick. Maybe you can get a little bit, you can make it a little juicy and have like a couple of assets involved, or you get maybe like a third-round draft pick thrown your way again, where you actually have a little bit of longevity involved. So that's my strategy, man. This video is all about what I like to do moving forward. I've just been seeing so many of my league mates who are like consistent. They're consistently winning or competing. I look at their teams, in the offseason, they have no running backs ever. And then by the time the season's underway and week 2, week 3, I look over at their team and they have like Joe Mixon and Derrick Henry and Kamara and all these like older running backs. And I look at the trade history and it's like, oh shit, these dudes went out and bought these running backs. And then I see the same dudes this offseason now advertising in our leagues, like, anybody want to sell me a running back? So it's a strategy that a lot of sharps, a lot of sharks are employing. I don't want to gatekeep this shit, man. I want to share with you guys and just let you know that I'm going to be putting this to the test. I'm going to be trying this in all my leagues. I'll keep you guys updated on how it goes. As I mentioned earlier in the video, if you guys want to grab my Dynasty rankings, all it is, you just join the Patreon. It's for free. You get my top 150 rankings in Dynasty. There's also a Discord community that you can join. Send me your trades. Send me, Q&As. Send me whatever you got. As I mentioned, it's an empty Discord right now. I'm sorry for that, but, get in there, introduce yourself. Let's fucking shoot the shit banner about fantasy football and discuss strats and see, see what's up, man. And yeah, happy to have you guys. Hope you liked this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, a like is the best way to show support. Go down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about this strategy. It's a little bit risky, right? Because you're essentially hoping that your league mates will actually sell you running backs. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments, man. Maybe you disagree. And if you're new here, hit me up with a subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.